Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Imagine it's 8:15 in the morning. You're going about your daily routine. The sun is already warm. Children are walking to school. Workers are beginning their shifts. The city feels ordinary. Suddenly, a small plane appears in the sky. A white parachute drifts down from it. Then, a light that had never fallen on this earth before. That light was so intense that human shadows burned into stone walls. So hot that granite melted. So blinding that people who looked at it had their eyes liquefied in an instant. And then came the roar, a roar that redefined an entire century. This is the story of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The story of the moment humanity found the weapon to destroy itself. And today, 80 years later, its echo still vibrates in our bones. The year was 1945. The world was still choking on the dust of the Second World War. Germany had surrendered in May, but Japan refused to give up. The fighting in the Pacific had been brutal. Iwo Jima, Okinawa, where both sides suffered staggering losses. The Japanese leadership was preparing to fight to the last man, woman, and child. America faced two choices: invade the Japanese mainland, which experts estimated could cost over 1 million American casualties and millions of Japanese lives, or deploy something that had only ever existed inside a laboratory, the atomic bomb. President Truman chose the second path. He called it a military operation to force Japan to its knees. But he probably didn't realize that this operation would become one of the most blood-soaked chapters in human history. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima. The city had so far been spared from major air raids. It was still sleeping in a peacetime slumber. Many residents believed the war was almost over. Some had even begun to hope. At 8:15 a.m., the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay, named after the pilot's mother, released a bomb nicknamed Little Boy. It fell for 43 seconds. Then, 600 meters above the Shima Surgical Clinic, it detonated. In that single moment, 70% of the city vanished. More than 80,000 people were instantly incinerated. By the end of the year, the death toll would rise to over 140,000 from burns, radiation, and injuries. Shadows of human beings were permanently burned into stone steps, the outline of a person sitting there, waiting for the day to begin. Some shadows showed people holding walking sticks, or children reaching for their mothers. Those who survived were called abakusha, explosion-affected persons. For years afterward, they suffered from radiation sickness, cancers, and a slow, invisible death. They faced discrimination in Japanese society, seen as contaminated. Today, in Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Museum, you can still see those stone steps. A shadow of someone who was there at 8:15, a shadow etched into history. One survivor, a young girl named Akiko, later wrote, "I saw my mother's face covered in blood. She was calling my name, but I couldn't hear anything. Everything was silent, and then I realized, the silence was inside my own ears." Japan did not surrender. The government in Tokyo debated for days. Some wanted to fight on. Others realized the catastrophe they faced. America believed one bomb wasn't enough to break Japan's will. August 9, 1945, just 3 days later. The primary target was the city of Kokura, a major military arsenal. But clouds and smoke from a previous firebombing raid obscured the target. The B-29 bomber boxcar circled for nearly an hour, low on fuel. The pilot, Major Charles Sweeney, made a decision. He changed course and chose the secondary target, Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., Fat Man turned the valley of Nagasaki into an inferno. This bomb was even more powerful than Little Boy, using a different design that compressed plutonium into a supercritical mass. Between 40,000 and 75,000 people died instantly. By the end of the year, the death toll reached around 80,000. The surrounding mountains tried to contain the blast, but the shockwave raced through the valley, flattening everything for miles. The industrial district was destroyed, but the unique geography saved parts of the city from total annihilation. The second attack made it clear to Japan's leadership that continued resistance would mean complete annihilation. August 15, 1945. Japan surrendered. Emperor Hirohito announced it over the radio, the first time most Japanese citizens had ever heard his voice. World War II was finally over. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were still counting their breaths. The total death toll from both bombings would exceed 200,000. Hundreds of thousands more would later die from radiation-related diseases, leukemia, cancer, and birth defects. Pregnant women who survived gave birth to children with microcephaly, intellectual disabilities, and other lifelong conditions. This remains the only time nuclear weapons have been used in war. But the question still echoes, were these bombs truly necessary? Was Japan already on the verge of surrendering? Was it a demonstration of power, or a mass execution? Historians still debate. Some argue that the bombs saved lives by ending the war quickly. Others point out that Japan was already militarily defeated and seeking a way to surrender, and that the bombs were more about intimidating the Soviet Union than defeating Japan. What is not debated is the suffering, the lingering pain, the generations affected by radiation. Today, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are peaceful cities. The Peace Memorial Park in Hiroshima draws visitors from all over the world, a reminder of what happened, and a plea for it to never happen again. Every year on August 6th, the city holds a ceremony. A bell tolls. A moment of silence is observed at exactly 8:15. And thousands of paper cranes, symbols of peace and healing, are offered at the Children's Peace Monument, inspired by a young girl named Sadako Sasaki who died of leukemia years after the bomb and believed that folding 1,000 cranes would grant her wish to live. But have we learned the lesson? Today, the world possesses enough nuclear firepower to destroy itself thousands of times over. 9 countries hold nuclear weapons. Some are modernizing their arsenals. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons has been adopted by many nations, but none of the nuclear-armed states have signed it. A young girl who survived Hiroshima once said, "My mother told me we would win the war. But we didn't even survive it." This story isn't just history. It's a warning. This was the story of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 2 cities, 2 bombs, and a reality we must never forget. If this video moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who should know this history. In the next video, we'll talk about the Cold War arms race that continues to shape our world today. Until then, take care.